In tonight's Dateline Defense, the ripple effect of tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia. On Saturday, Riyadh executed opposition Shiite cleric al-Nimr, and that execution sparked attacks on Saudi diplomatic posts in Iran and prompted demonstrations across the Middle East. For analysis tonight, I'm joined by retired Army Colonel Douglas Macgregor. He's a decorated combat veteran, author, PhD, and executive vice president of the Burke-Macgregor Group. Thanks for being here.
Sure.
Doug, many Middle Eastern nations are choosing sides in this conflict, many of them along sectarian lines. Do you think we're on the edge of a regional war?
Well, I think we're actually in a regional war. Wherever Sunni and Shia populations exist in proximity to each other, this conflict is going to spread. That means not only in the Middle East, but across North Africa, into Pakistan, India, Central Asia, and also here inside the United States. We've already seen some evidence for it in Dearborn, Michigan, Houston, Texas, and other cities where these two groups coexist uncomfortably.
The United Nations, the European Union, Turkey, and Russia have urged calm. The U.S. has done so too. Is that the right move here, or can more be done?
Well, listen, we can all urge calm, but this thing has been waiting for years to break into the open. The cleric who was executed had been held for years in Saudi jails. And remember, the population of eastern Saudi Arabia, where the oil fields are, as most of the soldiers, sailors, and airmen who've served in the Middle East will tell you, is overwhelmingly Shiite Arab. So this is really just the beginning of something that's finally broken into the open. And for the Turks in particular, it's going to be very difficult. They have a great stake in what happens in that peninsula. Saudi Arabia is almost incapable of defending itself effectively, as, again, most of us who've been in that region know. That means the Turks will inevitably be drawn into this larger conflict with Iran.
Pulling back, looking at the big picture, President Obama has a lot of pots boiling right now. His administration's in the middle of nuclear negotiations with Iran, peace talks for Syria, and military moves against ISIS. Will this dispute between Saudi Arabia and Iran, could it derail any of those efforts, any of those issues?
You know, the Saudis are very unhappy about the agreement we made with Iran concerning nuclear weapons. But as long as Russia stays engaged with Iran in this growing regional war against the Sunni Turks and Arabs, I think the agreement will hold. Everyone knows that if that agreement is broken and Iran proceeds to field nuclear weapons, that Turkey will most certainly do the same. And that would fundamentally change the strategic situation in ways that no one wants to see.
There's a financial element here as well. The Saudis have hiked oil prices by 50%. Tack on a manufacturing slowdown in China, and now U.S. stocks are in the toilet. Is this a national security issue?
Well, it is to an extent. Yes, our stocks are definitely in the toilet at the moment, and I'm not sure we're going to see a vast improvement in the near future. But as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, it's important for people to understand that with the drop in the price of oil from $100 down to $36, the very generous subsidies that the Saudi government provides to its population, remembering, of course, that almost 90% of adult Saudi males are employed by the government, have got to change. And this raises the specter of internal dissent and potentially rebellion. And remember, the Saudis have also provided lots of recruits to ISIS. And even though Saudi Arabia pretends to be anti-ISIS, in truth, without Saudi Arabia and Turkey, ISIS couldn't exist. So the bottom line answer is that most of what you're seeing happen right now is unfixable. And no president, whether he was Mr. Obama or anyone else, could change it.
Russian diplomats say that they're willing to act as mediators between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, President Vladimir Putin is ramping up his rhetoric. On New Year's Eve, he signed a new national security document naming the United States and NATO as threats. What's the end game here, and why is he doing this?
Well, Mr. Putin is unambiguously allied with the Shiites in Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. So the notion that he can act as a good faith negotiator between the two sides is absurd. He's part of the regional conflict now, which is going to spread all along his borders, all the way into Central Asia. He's in it, whether he likes it or not, for the long haul. As for the rest of it, frankly, Russia considers us an opponent, a competitor, sometimes an enemy. And I think we have to look at Russia in the same way. But we should not see Russia, and Russia should not see us, as permanent enemies. We should see each other as potential partners from time to time and simply understand that on other issues we will be opposed. And I think that's the way it will shake out over the long term.
Disturbing developments, but terrific analysis as always. Colonel Douglas Macgregor, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.